Have you ever stopped to wonder what really keeps the complex world of financial instruments, like derivatives, from just spinning completely out of control? It can seem pretty abstract, right? All jargon. But underneath, there's actually a really sophisticated safety net. So today, we're doing a deep dive. We're looking into the intricate legal and regulatory side of things that governs derivatives trading. And we're focusing specifically on India's framework, which is, well, pretty robust. We've got the source material here, foundational acts, committee reports, SEBI guidelines, you name it. Our mission, really, is to unpack how stability and, crucially, investor protection are woven into this whole high-stakes financial system.
And that really is the heart of it, isn't it? Understanding these rules isn't just for the pros, the traders. It's actually vital for anyone who wants to get a handle on how these financial systems are built to be, well, resilient, how they protect everyone involved, from the big institutions down to you, the individual investor. And I think this deep dive, it's going to uncover some maybe surprising layers of oversight, things you might not expect.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start right at the bottom, the foundations. To really get how India built its derivatives market, we have to look at the two sort of legislative giants that laid the groundwork. First, there's the Securities Contracts Regulation Act, 1956. We'll just call it the SCRA. And then the Securities and Exchange Board of India Act, 1992, the SEBI Act.
Right, those are the cornerstones.
Let's kick off with the SCRA from 1956. Its main job, essentially, was to stop undesirable, speculative stuff in securities, basically to govern how securities trading happens. Now, a really key part is how it defines securities in Section 2H, and it's broad, very broad. It covers shares, bonds, mutual fund units, government securities, and the big one for us today, derivatives. It does specifically exclude some things like unit-linked insurance policies, just worth noting. Now, when the SCRA talks about derivatives, what does it mean? Well, broadly, any security whose value comes from something else, derived from debt instruments, shares, market indices, also covers things like contracts for differences, commodity derivatives too. But here's where SCRA really became a game changer. Section 18A. Before this section, the legal status of derivatives in India was, well, murky, often seen almost like gambling contracts. Section 18A brought clarity, crucial legal clarity. It explicitly says derivative contracts are legal, they're valid, if, and this is the key part, if they are traded on a recognized stock exchange and settled through that exchange's clearinghouse, following all its rules.
Right, that was massive. It wasn't just a technicality.
Exactly. It allowed the market to develop properly, transparently, brought it out of the shadows, you could say.
To give it legitimacy.
Precisely. So the SCRA defines what a derivative is, makes it legal under certain conditions. But, for a market to work, you need a referee, a strong one, an enforcer. And that's where the SEBI Act of 1992 steps in. Its whole purpose was to create the Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, and give it real statutory powers.
The teeth.
Yeah, the teeth. SEBI's core mission is threefold. 1, protect your interests as an investor. 2, promote the healthy development of the securities market. And 3, actively regulate the whole thing. And SEBI's reach, it's huge, covers how companies issue shares, how intermediaries operate, basically everyone associated with the market. Its powers include regulating exchanges, registering brokers, stopping fraud, doing inspections, audits, the works.
What's really fascinating, I think, is seeing how these two acts work together. The SCRA gives you the definition, the legal standing. Then the SEBI Act gives you how the powerful regulator, SEBI, overseeing how derivatives are actually traded, the rules of the game.
Yeah.
It's like having the blueprint, the SCRA, and then the active supervisor, SEBI, making sure everyone follows it meticulously. It provides both clarity and enforcement. That builds trust, right?
Absolutely, a two-pronged approach. Okay, so that's the foundation. But how did we get from laws on paper to an actual functioning derivatives market? This is where it gets really interesting, I think. It involves the practical steps, the strategy. And a key player here was the Dr. L.C. Gupta Committee, set up by SEBI itself. Their recommendations were absolutely pivotal. They led to the phased introduction of derivatives, starting with stock index futures way back on May 11, 1998.
A cautious rollout, not just opening the floodgates.
Exactly. Carefully calibrated. And to make sure the market was sound, they set up strict eligibility criteria for derivatives exchanges and their segments. Any exchange wanting to offer derivatives needs SEBI's okay under the SCRA. Simple as that. They also need a separate governing council. And this is interesting. Trading members can't dominate it. Their representation is capped, I think it's 40%.
Yeah, 40%, to prevent conflicts of interest, essentially.
Right. And the exchange needs a decent number of members, at least 50. Plus, And this is key. Just being a member of the cash market segment doesn't get you into derivatives. You have to meet extra conditions, the ones laid out by the LC Gupta Committee, stricter requirements. And before any new derivative contract can be traded, SEBI has to approve it first. Constant oversight.
So layers of approval.
Layers. Now, let's talk about the eligibility and regulation of members, the brokers, the dealers who you'd interact with. All clearing and settlement has to go through a SEBI-approved clearing corporation, no exceptions. And, importantly, derivative brokers and clearing members need their own separate SEBI registration. It's on top of any existing broker registration they might have.
So an extra layer of scrutiny for those dealing in derivatives.
Definitely. And for the clearing members, the ones guaranteeing the trades their financial muscle is critical. They need serious capital. We're talking about minimum net worth figures in the crores of rupees, and they have to prove it regularly, like every 6 months with an auditor certificate.
And it's not just about having assets, is it? It's about liquidity.
Exactly. Liquid net worth. Assets they can access quickly if things go wrong. They need a specific minimum amount of that, too. It ensures they can actually meet their obligations under stress.
Making sense. A buffer.
A crucial buffer. Then there are contract values and margin requirements. There's a minimum contract size. Historically, it was 5 lakh rupees. But this changes. SEBI adjusts it. Recently, for instance, they pushed it up significantly more, like 15 to 20 lakhs now.
Why do they do that? Adjust the size.
It's about managing overall market exposure, really. Larger contracts mean fewer small, perhaps less sophisticated players, potentially reducing certain types of risk. And beyond the contract size, the initial margins, exposure limits, margin calls, all that is meticulously set by SEBI or the exchange. Now, for your protection, the listener, a big focus on client protection and due diligence. The Know Your Customer, or KYC rule, strictly enforced. You have to be properly registered with your broker. And here's a vital safeguard, something you should definitely know about. Brokers must give you a risk disclosure document. It spells out the risks involved in derivatives trading. They need you to sign it, confirming you've read and understood it.
That's huge. It shifts the onus, doesn't it? From buyer beware to buyer fully informed.
Absolutely. It empowers you. Plus, trading members have to use qualified staff, SEBI-certified users, and salespersons, professionals. And just quickly, even the collateral you deposit is carefully managed, segregated into cash components, actual cash, bank guarantees, FDs, safe stuff, and non-cash, like approved shares, safe handling.
So if you connect all these dots, these incredibly detailed rules for exchanges, for members, it's all designed to ensure only really capable, well-capitalized players are involved. Think about it less as red tape and more as a series of filters and buffers, the high net worth, the separate registration, that risk disclosure document especially. Right. They're not just hurdles. They're proactive risk containment. They build trust, transparency, and make sure participants can actually absorb potential losses without burning the whole system down.
Okay, that covers setting up the market, the players. But what about the day-to-day? Once trades are actually flying back and forth, let's dive deeper into trade management post-execution. We mentioned different memberships, capital market, F&O segment. A trading member can also be a clearing member, but they need to meet extra hurdles.
Higher standards, more capital usually.
Exactly. Now, margin obligations. This is absolutely critical. Initial margins, exposure margins, they have to be paid upfront by the clearing members. It's like the good faith deposit. And they can pay this using cash, bank guarantees, fixed deposit receipts, certain approved securities, a mix of options. Clearing members who handle trades for multiple trading members can also set their own limits on how much collateral those trading members need to post with them.
So another layer of risk management within the system.
Yes. And if someone doesn't meet their margin obligations, the consequences are swift and severe. Penalties, potentially losing their trading or clearing rights, having their positions forcibly closed out. They can even have their bank guarantees invoked immediately. No messing around.
Sends a strong message.
Definitely. Now, the responsibilities of the clearing corporation, this role is just central. Think of them as the ultimate guarantor, the trusted middleman for every single trade. When you buy, someone sells, the clearing corporation steps in. They become the legal counterparty to both sides.
Meaning they guarantee the trade happens, even if one side defaults.
Precisely. Even if your original counterparty disappears, the clearing corporation ensures the trade settles. It's fundamental to market trust. Their jobs include collecting margins on time, making sure daily clearing and settlement run smoothly, monitoring positions constantly, setting daily settlement prices, keeping track of margins at the client level. And this is vital for you, the listener. They must ensure client margins are segregated. They cannot be used to cover a broker's own debts.
Ever.
A critical protection. Huge. Plus, they have the power to transfer your positions from a broker who's defaulting to another one who's solvent. A real safety mechanism.
Wow. Yeah.
And then there's another layer. The Trade Guarantee Fund, or TGF. Its purpose is simple. Guarantee bona fide transactions get settled, boost market confidence, protect investors. All the active members chip into this fund. It's like a collective insurance pot for the market itself.
So multiple backstops.
Multiple backstops. And market integrity is also policed through regular stockbroker inspections and penalties. This is under the SEBI stockbroker regulations from '92. Inspections check if brokers are keeping proper books, following the rules. Penalties or suspensions can result from violating the act, ignoring the code of conduct, not handling complaints, market manipulation, getting into financial trouble, not paying fees, breaching registration conditions, or even just being suspended by the exchange itself.
A wide range of potential triggers.
Yes, and here's a powerful kicker. If a member defaults in the derivatives segment, it's treated as a default across all segments of that exchange and all other exchanges where they're a member.
Whoa. So a default in one place brings down their entire house of cards, essentially.
Exactly. Massive incentive to stay compliant everywhere. Finally, position limits. These cap the maximum exposure. SEBI sets limits for investors, for clearing members, sometimes for the whole market. And clearing members set trading limits for their trading members. If a trading member hits that limit, they can't add new risk. They can only trade to reduce their exposure, squaring off positions.
So it prevents anyone from building up a dangerously large position that could destabilize things.
Precisely. Risk containment again.
It really does raise the question, doesn't it? How all these interlocking pieces, the upfront margins, the clearinghouse guarantee, the position limits, the trade guarantee fund, how they create this incredibly robust, multi-layered safety net. It's clearly not just about writing rules. It's about designing resilience, protecting everyone, especially you, the individual investor, from both systemic shocks and single points of failure like a broker going under. Each layer seems to reinforce the others. It's quite a formidable structure when you look at it all together. Impressive design, actually.
Absolutely. So we've talked about the rules, the structures, but what happens when things actually go wrong? What does this all mean for you, the listener, if, say, your broker defaults? Or the exchange has a major technical meltdown? Well, the regulators haven't just hoped for the best. They have detailed plans, standard operating procedures, SOPs ready for exactly these kinds of crises.
Contingency planning.
Right. Let's look at the SOP for member default. Could be a trading member or a clearing member. SEBI requires specific, fast actions from exchanges, clearing corporations, depositories, the moment there are warning signs of a potential default. The #1 goal, always, protect the non-defaulting clients. And here's a specific protection detail for you. As a first step, exchanges and clearing corps have to prioritize settling the credit balances of smaller investors. Anyone with less than 25 lakh rupees gets paid first using available clear funds. Those with more than 25 lakhs get paid after that on a pro rata basis from whatever's left. It provides a defined priority for smaller investors.
That's a significant protection for the average retail participant.
It is. Then there's the SOP for a stock exchange outage, a major tech failure. The aim here is clear. Let everyone know immediately, market participants, other institutions, and if necessary, extend trading hours so people aren't stuck with intraday positions they can't close. If an outage hits, the affected exchange has to tell SEBI right away, email them instantly. Then, within 15 minutes, they have to inform the market broadcasts, website updates. Crucially, trading can usually continue in segments that aren't affected and on other exchanges, so the whole market doesn't just grind to a halt.
Provide some continuity.
Yes. The affected exchange obviously has to work fast to get things back online, potentially activating its disaster recovery site. And there are clear rules on extending trading hours. If things are back to normal, at least an hour before the scheduled close, no change. But if it's not fixed within that last hour, or if the outage actually happens in the last hour but before the final 15 minutes, then all stock exchanges extend trading by 1.5 hours.
Across the board.
Across the board. Gives everyone time to manage their positions properly before the market finally closes for the day.
You know, these SOPs really show the level of foresight involved. Planning for failure, even for events that are hopefully rare. It demonstrates a real proactive commitment to market integrity and protecting investors, knowing that even if something bad happens, there are clear, predefined steps to minimize the damage and look after people's interests. It's about building a system that doesn't just break under pressure, but can actually absorb shocks and adapt. It's resilience in action.
What an incredible journey we've taken, eh? Through this really extensive, layered regulatory world that supports India's derivatives market, we started with those foundational acts, SCRA and SEBI, defining the what and the who. Then we moved to the specific, tough eligibility rules for exchanges and brokers. We unpacked the risk tools margins, the vital clearing corporation role, position limits, and finally, even the emergency plans, the SOPs for defaults and outages. It's definitely not just a random collection of rules. It's a complex, interconnected system all designed, really, to build a secure and stable playing field for derivatives trading.
Indeed. And while, yes, the complexity can seem a bit daunting from the outside, understanding these structures really demystifies things. It builds an appreciation, I think, for the constant, diligent work that goes into keeping these markets stable and maintaining integrity for everyone. It's not a static thing either. It's always evolving, isn't it? Trying to stay ahead.
Absolutely. It's a continuous process. So that brings us to a final thought for you, the listener. Considering how meticulously these regulations seem to address current risks and defaults, what emerging trends or maybe new types of financial activity do you think might pose the next big challenge for regulators? And how might they need to adapt this framework, this approach, to keep pace? Something to chew on.